Alright guys, so what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to make myself a net needle. I've made nets before, I've never used a net needle to make them. So I want to go through, teach myself on how to do that. So what I've already done is I've gone outside, I split a piece of wood, I cut it to approximately the size that I want to make the net needle out of. So I'm going to take a pocket knife, I'm just going to carve that net needle and we'll go through that process. So the only thing I'm going to use is really basic tools. So what I've done so far is I've taken my tomahawk, I've cut this piece of wood out. My next step is going to be to actually shape the net needle. Today I'm just going to use a marker just because that's the easiest thing I have. You can certainly use charcoal if you're outside as well. That'd be a really effective way to do that as well. Just to line up what you want to cut out. So that's going to be the basic shape I'm going to do. So like I said, the only thing I'm going to use is my pocket knife and the axe to make the whole thing. Now outside we have the first hurricane of our season. It's a little early for hurricanes this year, but we're expecting to have a lot of them this year as well. Now the tree for this, the reason why I actually cut this tree down is I planted a couple of fruit trees. So I planted a new apple tree and I planted a new pear tree. So I just cut this tree down to actually make room for that because it was right where I want to place both of those trees. So all I'm doing right now is just shaving off little pieces. So there's two different methods for making a net. The first method would be to tie a rope across and then tie individual knots as you go down, and then tie a securing rope at the top and the bottom. Now this method is going to let you make a little bit better of a net. It's going to let you make a more fine, evenly spaced net. Now right now, just because I'm trying to take bigger chunks off, I'm not really too worried about how the grain is. As I get closer to the actual shape, I'm going to worry a little bit more about the grain, and I'm going to be looking to take smaller chunks out. Now one of the things that you can see right away is I've got it to the basic shape I want, but it's about twice as thick as I want. So what I'm debating on doing is if I want to make one needle or two needles out of this, it wouldn't take a whole lot to split this in half and then end up with two needles at the end. So I don't know if this will work very well. I'm just going to make a little guide right here on either side, and then maybe I'll try and split it down that mark. Now for this, I don't want to do this on my nice floor inside. It looks like it might have stopped raining for a few minutes again, so I'll go outside and I'll give that a quick tap. If that doesn't work, I might end up having to start all over. What I'm going to try and do is I'm just going to loosen my blade here a little bit, line the blade up with those two cuts, and I'm going to try and baton that through. The reason I'm not going to leave it in the lock position, what will happen is if you baton with a knife like this in the lock position, it's going to damage the lock and it won't work properly. But if you loosen the lock, set it down, and then tap it through, you're not going to have a problem with that lock breaking. And what I'm doing right now, I'm just trying to thin it out to about the right depth before I start to drill in. So I'm going to have to drill in here to get that center part out. So I'm still pretty thick through the middle. The ends are looking pretty good right now. So this is kind of the thickest part right through here, so I'm just going to thin that out a little more. Now if you brace your knife up against your knee and pull the wood into the knife, sometimes that's a little bit easier. It gives you a little bit better leverage. And all I'm continuing to do is just thin that out a little bit. There's still a few rough spots here, so I want to get those rough spots off just so it's a little nicer to work with as well. So what I'm going to do here is just cut that end out. Inside I need to leave a little stick sticking up. And what that's going to allow me to do is wrap the rope around the end, goes back around, then we'll go back over that peg again. And then you'll just repeat that until you're done. So to drill a hole in, I think my best bet's going to be an awl. So I'm just going to take my awl and just twist it in. So my plan here right now is I got a hole on either side. I'm going to do 3 holes on both sides, just along the center peg to put the rope on. That's just going to make it a little bit easier for me to cut that out on either side. And then I'll make a few holes up here which will let me cut it out a little easier as well. so I got everything all ready to go together now. So I have my net needle, I have my sizing gauge, and then what I've done is I've made a couple different size and shape floats. So for this one I just drilled a hole all the way through. For these two I put a hole on either end so I can thread the rope through. Same idea, just put the 2 holes on either side of the knot. And then for these two, I just put a small hole through so that we can put these on the end just to help lift that net up. So let's get going and start to build that net.